If she had to resign, then so does he. Hey up everyone and welcome to Political Nerds. I'm Steph the Alter Nerd, your nerdy political guide from Washington DC to Westminster and beyond. Now of course, before I jump into this, the usual disclaimer. Do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and I'm not inciting hatred to anyone or particular group, religion, etc. So, let's go from the report that the Sunday Times published, which has kicked off this absolute firestorm for Starmer. And so reports allege that Keir Starmer used a trust to avoid inheritance tax on Surrey land. And as Clarkson's Farm says right here, and then having the audacity to destroy family farms with their inheritance tax raid, absolutely disgraceful. One rule for them, one rule for another. Now here is Sunday Times Whitehall editor Gabriel Pogrund, and if I've mispronounced his name, I do apologise. And he breaks this story down further and says, our story link below, but first the facts as we understand them. In 1996, Keir Starmer bought a field, the famous Donkey Field, for £20,000. In 2022, he sold it at a price of £295,000. He did not declare ownership for several years whilst being an MP, which is a breach of the rules for which he's apologised. When asked to explain, in a previously unnoticed comment, he told the parliamentary authorities, I immediately gifted the land to my parents for as long as they should live, but I did not transfer the legal title. That remained with me. To a normal reader, these words would not have any significance beyond their natural meaning. But Dan Nigel said it's in fact specific language that refers to the creation of a trust. We spoke to a leading KC who agreed with this view. Under such a trust, a life interest or interest in possession trust, Starmer technically remained owner even as his parents had a claim to the land throughout their lives. Per Section 54, Part 1 of the Inheritance Tax Act, in force at all points, such a trust guarantees that upon death of the beneficiary, the property returns to the settlor, which is Starmer. The legislation explicitly says the property shall not be into account in determining the value of the estate of the deceased person. In other words, by creating the trust, Starmer guaranteed that whatever its eventual value and however much the commuter belt land rose to, it would be excluded from the estate of his parents, of which he was beneficiary. The smaller the estate, the less inheritance tax payable. At the time he bought the land in 96, inheritance tax allowance were far lower than they are today, making it easier for a person's estate to cross the threshold into paying the tax and creating an even greater incentive to reduce the size of an estate. Starmer says he structures the purchase with anything in mind other than helping his parents. We've repeatedly asked why then he could not have pursued the two simplest options, either giving them the field or retaining it but letting them use it. This is not a question which number 10 would answer. So fast forward to 2018 and Starmer's father's estate upon death had a gross value of £460,000 and a net value of £375,000. So had the field had been included, Starmer as executor would have needed to get it valued within a year and submit details to HMRC as part of the wider inheritance tax admin, a precursor to getting probate. As the field didn't form part of the estate though, it didn't happen. And so you read it all and you think, this, putting it simply, right? If she had to resign over, tax dodging, playing the tax field, using tax loopholes, one rule for her, another rule for the rest of us, this, that, and the other, right? I'm sorry, but I'm seeing the same story play out with this bozo. And so, if she had to resign, then bloody hell, so does he as well. Now, upon release of this story, Starmer was actually interviewed by Laura Kuenssberg on the BBC, and he was asked about this. And so he said the following, and here's the article here from The Independent that outlines this portion of the interview that he had with Laura Kuenssberg. Asked if he put the land into a trust on the BBC's Sunday with Laura Kuenssberg programme, Keir replied, "No, I didn't." And so he said, "My mum was very ill and she couldn't move around anymore. She, by the end of her life, had her leg amputated and she could barely communicate. She was very, very ill. She loved her donkeys and I wanted her to be able to see her donkeys. I was a lawyer. I had quite a lot of money. I bought a field for £20,000 at the back of their house. I said, 'Here's your field. It's yours for as long as you may live.'" He added, "The idea of setting up some complicated trust for a £20,000 agricultural field, which then housed 4 donkeys, it was so my mum, she was able to. They had a little outhouse at the edge of the field and she was able in the end to see the donkeys. My dad built a little sort of porchway so he could wheel the wheelchair out so she could touch the donkeys. That's what it was for. I gave it to them." Yeah, but in June 2022, he said something slightly different to the parliamentary commissioner. And so this is what he said. So, land in Oxted, Surrey. On the 9th of December 1996, I purchased the land in question. I immediately gifted the land to my parents for as long as they should live, but I did not transfer the legal title. That remained with me. The land was purchased for a sum, a less than £100,000 threshold set by the House. For so long as my parents lived, it was not for sale, and I had no reason to think its value exceeded £100,000. I'm calling BS on that. After advice from my estate agent, it was put on the market for a sum in excess of £100,000 on 15th of March 2022. At the beginning of this year, I decided to sell the land after discussions with my family, and I asked my office to contact the registrar regarding the process of how this should be registered. In March 2022, having received 2 estate agent valuations, I began the formal process of putting the land up for sale. In June 2022, my office contacted the registrar to inform them that the sale was progressing, and I would be in touch once completed to update my register, as the value would then be over £100,000. It has always been my priority to register things in accordance with the rules, and I'm happy to answer any further questions you may have. So this was Keir Starmer back in June 2022 telling a slightly different story to the parliamentary commissioner. And so this is the thing here, Shepherd Wales, taking the words out of my mouth here, saying if Starmer sold the land to a trust for his parents so they could avoid inheritance tax, then he must go, whether it's legal or not. The optics don't look good. And so if he's done this, then he's intentionally misled the commissioner about his entry in the members' interest. He must be referred to the Standards Committee. No ifs, no buts. He misled the commissioner. He misled the House. He lies repeatedly. Go, man, go. And it goes back to my point here. If she had to freaking resign over some similar tax adventurous misdeeds, whatever the frick you want to call it, right? Then certainly he has to freaking go as well. Now, Sunday Times Whitehall editor again, he comes up and Gabriel Pogrund asked legal experts their view on this, and here is what he said. Did Keir Starmer give land to his parents via a trust guaranteeing their estate, of which he was beneficiary, would never pay inheritance tax on its eventual value? Legal experts say yes. Curiously, number 10 will not answer, despite having a list of straightforward questions for weeks, and Starmer retaining a leading tax KC following our original approach. Now, here's one legal expert I found on X. His name's Stuart at Stuart Maggs. And his ex-bio says that he specialises in client law and tax. And he explained how Starmer may have actually lied here. And so he says the following. Keir Starmer has just said to Laura Kuenssberg that he did not put the donkey land into trust. But he said to the parliamentary commissioner, I immediately gifted the land to my parents for as long as they should live, but I did not transfer the legal title. That remained with me. Guess what? That is a freaking trust. The two statements above are directly contradictory, like I said earlier on. Either he misstated things to Parliamentary Commissioner, which seems unlikely, or he just misled Laura Kuenssberg. I have no idea why he would do that. Oh, I do, to try and save his own skin. And maybe he forgot what he told the Parliamentary Commissioner back in June 2022. Or maybe he thought that no one would find it. Yeah. Never, ever, 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 ever underestimate the internet. Just don't. Just don't. And so here, as Stephen Barrett is saying, if Rayner had to resign, then so does Starmer. Because here's the big problem. As Alistair Thompson says here, Keir Starmer's first key act as Prime Minister was hammering farmers with an extortionate tax. If it's exploited a loophole to avoid tax on a huge estate of land, he's got to resign. He's tanked the economy, sold out our security, and it turns out he's an incompetent hypocrite. And again, here's another thing financially that Starmer did not declare to the House. He didn't declare it. Prime Minister used a special form of discretionary trust to avoid inheritance tax on a field in Surrey, saving up to £720,000 when it was sold in 2022 for at least £1.5 million. The MP never declared this in the member interest at the House of Commons. And I say another thing financially that Starmer didn't declare to the House because I still haven't forgotten this story. Have you? Now, reactions are coming in thick and fast. Here's the reaction that I'm pulling from No Farmers, No Food on X, saying it's been reported that Keir Starmer gave land to his parents through a 1990s trust, ensuring the asset would never face inheritance tax regardless of its value. So he hammers farmers for the very thing he tries to dodge himself. And he can't, this is the thing, Starmer can't claim ignorance on this. Oh, I didn't know the rules, this, that, and the other. Dude's a freaking lawyer. He knows the rules. And he knows the loopholes as well, quite clearly. Now, this was the funniest reaction I saw from Peter at De Gaulle on X. Sir, they found out about your inheritance tax avoidance. And then this picture. It says it all, doesn't it? But let me leave you, right, with the last word from Starmer himself. Thanks to Chris Rose pulling this clip from Starmer on the 25th of January 2023. And he asked the following. Does the PM agree that any politician who seeks to avoid the taxes they owe in this country is not fit to be in charge of taxpayer money? Oh, I agree, Prime Minister Keir Starmer. I totally agree that if someone avoids paying tax in this country that they owe, yeah, they're not fit to run this country, are they? With that being said, if you appreciated this video and you want more, believe me, unfortunately, with the state of the UK at the moment, there's going to be more. Make sure you subscribe to join our Alter Nerd tribe here at Political Nerds. If you're watching on X, make sure you're following me at Steph Alter Nerd for more misadventures of Keir Starmer whilst he's still in power. Like, share, comment down below your opinion, conspiracy theories, whatevers. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I appreciate all your faces. And until the next time, you guys, laters.